Township. This is Oakland Leadership, and I'm Penny Shults. Thank you for joining us today as we visit with lifelong residents Harold and Mike Flood. Their roots run deep in a community that honors family, faith, and sound leadership. Members of their family have helped shape our community, and Mike and Harold have a rich historical perspective about what makes Orion a great place to live. I'm confident you will enjoy the program. Gentlemen, I'm so glad to have you both here today.
Well, thank you, Penny. We're glad to be here.
It's good to be here.
Your family has been in this community for generations.
Yes, about 4 generations, exactly.
Right.
And it's nice that we got both of you here today.
Well, not always here, but it's good to be together.
You make your home in Orion as well as in Florida?
Yes, in the wintertime.
Well, we're glad that you could be with us today.
Thank you.
And you brought some things that you wanted to share with the community. Something special is coming up at the Board of Trustees on the 21st of December, and that's really what prompted me to invite you both here. So let's talk about some of the things that you brought today and your connection with the Gingellville Fire Station.
Thank you. Through the years, we've inherited our different photos and memorabilia from the fire department, and we want to make sure this gets saved for future generations and pass on. So we have today we have Harold Gingell, who's the founder of Gingellville, with his brother Francis. We have his old fire department turnout peacoat, this one with a formal dress, and has the original Gingellville Fire Department badges, patches, and the hat cover that they used to wear back then.
That's beautiful. And I know you've taken good care of that because you told me that you just had it over at the cleaners, made sure all the stitching was excellent and that everything was shined up perfect.
Yes. Yes.
And it's quite an honor to have you bestow this on the Gingellville Fire Station, and we're very thankful for that.
Oh, my pleasure. And we're going to donate this, like you said, on the December 21st board meeting. There'll be 3 donations to start with. Number 1 is the family members, my brother and sisters, have purchased a 20 by 30 foot American-made flag, which will be displayed from the new 2015 Rosenberg 100-foot aerial ladder truck we're going to take possession of in the first of the year.
That's impressive.
Thank you to the residents for passing that millage so we can upgrade our fire department. And currently, if you'll see in front of the Orion Veterans Memorial, you'll notice that Oxford has graciously donated their ladder truck to come down and display that flag when we hold patriotic events down there. So now Orion Township will have their own display for the historical value.
That's very nice. That's quite a generous gift, Harold.
Well, you're welcome. We're glad to do it.
Yes, thank you very much. And you will be at that board meeting as well?
I will be. I plan to be there. I come to as many board meetings as I can. So.
And you also lead prayer for us at those board meetings.
I have times due, whenever you need me.
And you're a leader in your church, the Gingellville Community Church.
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role there?
Well, I started out there as very young. We've grown up in that church ever since we were little kids, 5, 6 years old. And yeah, I've held just about most of the leadership role other than pastor. I'm not the pastor. Had to step in and speak a few times over the years that something happens. But yeah, I've held most of the posts there as deacons and elder and that. Right now I'm not. I'm still a deacon, do a lot of the maintenance on the building.
I know that firsthand too, because when we hold elections there at the Gingellville Community Church, you're always available for the inspectors.
Yeah, I try to help out set up and make sure that everything's open and everything's squared away. If they have any problems, and I usually step in and try to help out.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, glad to do it.
And Trustee Flood, you are also a trustee on the board, the Orion Township Board of Trustees. Tell us about your role in that way.
I was fortunate to be selected by the board back in 2011 when Matt Gibb had gone to the county and Joanne had superseded him as the supervisor. And very rewarding. It's kind of like a family tradition. My family's been involved, our family's been involved in civics and giving back to the community all through our lives. So we kind of inherited that a little bit. Right. And very rewarding, helping to serve the residents. And there's some difficult situations we have to do, but that goes with the job. And being tied with the fire department and the former Gingellville Community Center when it was originally there on Baldwin Road at Maybe, we've held different positions there of serving our community.
I like that. I know you know my grandparents. They've since passed, but you knew them all those years ago as well.
Yes. Fortunately, the Gingell brothers owned the Gingell Brothers Hardware, and it was renowned throughout the community, they had everything. If they didn't have it, nobody had it.
Right.
And they always hired high school kids to work through their last junior and senior year of their school.
Yep.
I was fortunate to replace Ray Welpley. And if you remember, Ray Welpley is immortalized up at the Orion Veterans Memorial. He's tragically died in Vietnam.
Oh.
So I stepped in after Ray graduated from high school. And then my brother Harold, he stepped in after I
took over.
I graduated and went to
Yep.
work at the auto factory.
Worked there for many years.
Yeah.
So this is a family tradition.
Yes.
Exactly. Yep.
I see you both in so many other places without in the community as well. Tell me some of the things that you're involved in outside of your roles at your church and at the township.
Well, we both are on the Environmental Resources Committee for the township, and then we've done a bunch of other things together, looking at stuff, but that's mostly what we work together on through the township.
Yeah, we served as Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, Cub Scout Pack 59 and Troop 59, and Ray Plower was our leader, and you know Ray from
Yes.
over your family lived there off of Hopefield over there off
Right.
Joslin. And through the years, we've given back to the community, and we were involved with the Chamber of Commerce and support all the nonprofit organizations in the community.
That's really important that we support one another
Absolutely.
and that we're working hard to promote those things in the community so people can have a richer life here in Orion.
Exactly.
And you also, Trustee Flood, bring a rich historical perspective to many of our board meetings. When we're making decisions, it's important that we have this information, and you're a great researcher.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Fortunately, we've been both raised here all our lives, like numerous other families have been long life residents.
Right.
And so we have, actually, we've lived the experience, since our youth.
Watch things change a lot throughout
Right.
the entire township.
What are some of the biggest changes that you've experienced, Harold?
Well, I think, one of the big things was the Orion plant coming in. I was working at General Motors at the time and was involved in the permitting and siting of that plant, and so seen a big change there. And of course, the Baldwin corridor has changed drastically
Yes.
over the years. So,
Now, didn't the GM plant used to be an airport?
yes, yeah, it was a small regional airport, and that's large tract of land was what made it important to be able to build that plant on that property.
I'm glad they built that in Orion.
I am too.
It's been good for our community.
Absolutely.
How about you? What are some of the changes that you've experienced over time?
Living, we were raised on Mill Lake, the little Mill Lake down there, and seeing all the farmland. This is all, used to be all rural farmland. There was only, the village of Lake Orion was the center of the community through its history. And then when the township started evolving with all the new subdivisions and stuff, and we used to help farmers when we were young kids. How we made some money was the local farmers would grow hay, and we'd go out and, as a kid, making a few dollars,
Yes.
load the hay wagons up. And the big one too was seeing Scripps Estate, which used to be Wildwood Farm, change from to all the subdivisions it is now.
Tremendous
Because that used to
change.
be our playground when we were kids.
Right.
Yes.
We were authorized. The caretaker there let us go over there and play and stuff.
And it's now Keatington.
Yes,
Yes.
now it's Keenington, all the different subdivisions in there.
Right.
So the biggest thing was seeing all the rural farm land being turned into urban
Right.
that we have today.
Did you go to proper school?
Yes.
Yes, both of us did. In fact, when I went there, it was kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
And that was prior to them building the new high school out on Scripps Road, which is now the Cirque Center. And I think around 57, I think that opened up. And then then it was just kindergarten through 6th.
I like
Right.
that.
And we both I went to junior high actually in what's called the Elizabeth Street School as junior high. And then when the new junior high, which is next door to the high school, was opened, I was one of the first classes in that school.
So you've seen a lot of changes
Oh,
in our
yes.
community.
Yes.
A lot of good changes.
A lot of good changes.
Yes. I want to talk a little bit about the pictures that you brought because we have a fire station that's been built on Gregory Road to replace an existing fire station. And these pictures are amazing.
This picture here now was, the Lake Orion Township Fire Department was originally formed about 1948. And this picture was taken approximately 4 years later after they built the fire hall. And it's the original fire truck. It's a 49 Chevy pumper. And in this picture's currently hanging at the Orion Township Oakland County Sheriff's substation, because through the archives we found out that we were the first township to have a contract with Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and that was back in 1952. And the one police officer on, which would be on my right, was our grandfather, Harold Van Camp, and over here is Ed Knickerbocker, and the one not shown is my grandfather's brother-in-law, Ed Emai. They were the first three to be deputized by Sheriff Frank Irons back in those days.
It's a long
And
time
they
ago.
were, yes, and they were considered Oakland County special deputies. Because at the time, rural Orion Township didn't have any police service out here. They had to send them out from Pontiac, Oakland County. Well, back in those days, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department wasn't like it is today. It was real small. So there's a historical value here. And that's some of your original firemen. And one thing I'd like to note too is there, in all the years of service for the fire department, we've only lost one firefighter during a fire. And Walt Elmy is in this picture here, and he tragically fell off the fire truck when they were responding to a house fire on Heights Road back in 1960.
Wow.
And back in those days, as the fire truck came down the road, these were all businessmen right there on Baldwin, they would just jump on the back of the fire truck and hang on, and that's how they transported.
Elmy Drive, was that named after his family?
Exactly. It was known before as Mount Vernon, and then it was named in his honor after he tragically passed away.
That's very special that they honored Mr. Elmy in that way.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. And you have another one here that says Orion Township Fire Department number 3.
Yes, this is the same fire station, the old original one there. That's currently there now. I think Greenskeeper's launch service is in there. This was taken approximately 10 years later, about 1962. And this has a lot of historical people on that served our community. And the third person from the left there is our father, Mike Flood, Sr., and he served as the fire chief from approximately 1962 until his death in 1970. And beside him, immediately to his right, would be Frank Gingell, and then Harold Gingell's on the end there. Yes.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
I didn't realize that that was a fire station all those years ago across from the existing fire station on Gregory Road.
Yes, that was donated by the Gingell family for the property, and then they built that building themselves. The firemen basically built that building, and
At no cost to the township.
Right.
Incredible. So the fire department number 3, that's actually had 3 buildings over time.
yes, it has. Yes.
Yes, yes. And the reason it was named number 3, at this time, Station 1 was in the village. And that was owned and operated prior to 1960 by the village. It was really known as the Lake Orion Village.
And it was precinct 1 for voting.
Yes. And this one here was known as Precinct 3 for voting, because at the time there was only 3 precincts in the whole township. And you would know that
That's pretty
being
exciting.
in charge of elections. And so it just inherited the number 3 station.
Right. There was no number 2 at the time. It was just 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So it coincided with, not to get things mixed up, they just named it there after the precinct number.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
Now, you did talk about the curves on Clarkston Road. One of those fire trucks flipped over. Can you tell us the story about that?
Oh, yes. The original fire truck was in that photo on the was the 49 Chevy Pumper, which they purchased. That was on the first photo. The second photo is 1947 Dodge Tanker. And how this department got it, this was a 1-truck station. Bob Smith likes to call us a 1-horse fire department. You know?
Yes.
And when the 2 departments combined became all Orion Township, they bought the first new fire trucks from that millage to replace the equipment in the village station up in the village. And then the tanker came from there over here to Gingellville. And they were responding to a fire back in 1967, I believe it was, in the village, somewhere with fire. And Bill Walrath and Connie Rogers were driving the truck. And as they got around those S-curves down by Camp Agawam on Clarkston Road, the last curve further to the east, it overturned. Supposedly a car had crossed the center line on it.
Oh my gosh.
And that was what was reported.
So they were swerving.
And they were fortunate, both men were fortunate not to be severely injured or killed in it.
Wow.
And I have photos of that at home, completely smashed the whole truck.
Thank God they were okay.
Yes.
Our first responders really put themselves out there
Yes,
every
they do.
time. And that's why we need to support them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you gentlemen know this firsthand. What was it like growing up in your home when they would have to respond to a fire in the middle of the night?
Well, originally it was just a fire siren, which was on top of Proper School, and you'd listen for it. If you heard the fire signal go off, you'd wake up Dad, if he didn't hear it, and then he would respond, okay? And then there was a couple other people around our neighborhood that would respond as well. And then later on, they got the radios, which would be set off by a tone. But as soon as anybody heard that, the first thing you did was go find Dad and make sure that he heard that it was, and then he would take and respond from our home. And at that point in time, they would give a location, and they'd have to decide, do I need to go to the station and get a truck, or am I going to go directly to the fire or not? And from there on, I guess you know a lot more about how that grew from that. That's what I remember.
Yes. Originally, when they purchased the new fire department, a fire truck in 1949, there was no building to put it in. Fire station hadn't been built yet. So they stored it in the Justice of the Peace Armitage's house. And that was located exactly south of Proper School there. And he had a big garage and stuff. So that's where they would.
Is it still there?
No, the building got tore down. It's where Pete's Coney Island is,
Okay.
number 2 now. That's that same property. That's where they stored the fire truck until they bought, till they built the new one. They would originally call Mrs. Armitage up by phone from the dispatcher up in Lake Orion, which is now Lockhart's barbecue now.
Yes.
That's what the original dispatcher
The old
was.
Village Hall.
The old Village Hall. She was up in the 2nd floor there. And then they would do a call tree. They would go by phone. And through the years, until they got the new technology, when they got the tone-out boxes, it was all by phone.
Right.
Everyone had a certain number of people they had to call.
Wow.
And everybody had to actually go to the fire station because you didn't know if nobody went to the fire, nobody pulled a truck.
Want to make sure they were
Right.
responding.
Exactly.
That's a good plan of action.
Yeah, but that's how, and they were known as volunteer firefighters back then. I think when they first started out, they didn't get paid for this.
Right.
It was all a volunteer. And then eventually, through the years, they got what they call paid on call.
That's dedication.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But it was also, you know, because there was no other fire department or anybody that could respond. You know, we had the new businesses for the Gingels, and you had some other businesses around. It was something they were trying to protect themselves and their neighbors.
Yes.
You know, and that's what they were all about is helping out their own neighbors, which is what we do today too.
Yep, and that is still where your principles lie. I know this about both of you, that you help the community, you help your neighbors, you help the local businesses, and that's something you learned many, many years ago from your uncle, from your father, from your grandparents. That's remarkable. I think that's an excellent legacy that you're leaving.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know you've raised your children, your family in this community. Would you tell us a little bit about them?
Go ahead, Earl.
Okay, well, my daughter grew up here, and she married an Ohio person. And at this time of year, that's
Not a Michigander.
Not a Michigander, but we love him anyway.
Sure.
She's got 5 kids, and she's married to a policeman. He is a detective in Xenia, Ohio, and we're very proud of him.
Yes.
He's just a wonderful young man, and he's serving his country there, his community there as well. Our son is in Florida, and he married a young lady from Florida, and we have 2 granddaughters down there too. And he works in a missions operation called ECHO, which is Educational Concerns for Hunger Organization. He and his wife both work there. And then my wife and I volunteer at that. And what they do is they're working to help small-scale farmers and subsistence farmers around the world, mostly in the 1040 window, that are trying to help people be able to feed themselves. And so they're doing research in technologies and nutritious plants and getting all that information out. My wife and I work there the 3 months that we're gone
I like
as
that.
well. So we're volunteering in that as well.
So you're involved in both communities where you live?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
And I also, well, and my kids have too, work at a camp up north, a Christian camp that I'm the grounds director for. And so that's why I don't get as much involved down here, but in the summertime I'm working up there and doing stuff with that camp.
You're
so
making a difference in the lives of
try
a
to.
lot of people.
try to.
Yeah, and your family has done that. That's
Yes,
what
all
your
of
legacy
our lives,
is.
yep,
And you're teaching that to the next generation as well.
trying to.
I'm very glad for that. You have a pretty remarkable family. Can you tell us about them as well?
My immediate family, I have 1 daughter. I'm proud to say her name is Kristen.
Yes.
And she has provided us with 2 beautiful grandchildren. I'm so proud of. Our grandson, Austin.
Yeah.
In fact, he's home today from college.
I saw that.
Did you?
Yes.
He's enrolled in Coastal Carolina University down in Myrtle Beach. and he's doing real good with his grades. And we have a little 6-year-old granddaughter who goes to Stadium Elementary School, and that's the the arts and crafts, or
Sure.
not crafts, but, and she loves do crafting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all live here in Orion.
How many generations?
There's that would just be 3 generations right there for us,
That's beautiful.
because both our parents and grandparents have deceased.
So there would have been 5 that have
5.
come from.
Exactly,
In the
5
community,
originally. Right.
That's excellent.
Right.
And
And they were
I
all
can
they were
see-
all immigrants.
Incredible. From
The
where?
Flood family, my father's family, was from Ireland,
Right.
and they were raised in. There was 13 of them in that family, and they were raised in Ortonville. And then my mother's family was Van Camp. They're Dutch.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure when those came over here. So yeah.
I like that. Can I ask what the Gingell Association is? I know
Sure.
that's neat too.
You go ahead, Harold.
Okay, well, our father died at a very early age. He was only 42 when he had a massive heart attack. Mom, of course, was widowed, and then Harold Gingell's wife passed away a few years before that. And then Mom was working at the hardware, and I don't know how it all came about, but anyways, Mom married Harold Gingell
Beautiful.
several years later. And so I used to be accused of being a Gingell when I worked at the hardware, and I never was. But then my mom married one of the original Gingell brothers from the hardware,
And became
so
a
it became
Gingell.
one. so we're kind of engrafted into the Gingell family, even though we've known the Gingells all of our lives, been involved with all of the Gingell,
Yes.
all the different Gingell families around.
That family has so much respect, you know, and yours does as well. I'm really glad to hear your story. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you guys want to tell us about, our audience about?
Well, I'd like to allude a little bit more on how we became involved in our community
Yes,
through,
sir.
through family heritage. Is that my grandfather was a farmer. He had a dairy farm over on Pelton Road, over off in Clarkston over there, off Waterford Road. And Harold Gingell had owned the Gingell farm on Maybe Road, which today is Rolling Meadows Subdivision.
Right.
And they struck up a deal by a handshake that he left the farm over in Clarkston, Waterford, and moved over to Maybe Road on a handshake. Nothing
Wow.
formally written up, and that was a dairy there. And that's where my mom and dad first started. When Dad came home from the military, Mom was babysitting for his sister, kids and stuff. That's how they kind of met. And Mom and Dad were living with my grandparents on the Gingell farm there, and then that's when I was born and where I came.
On
And
the Gingell farm.
Yes. And ironically, Harold and I both live on Roar Road, across the street from what was. So we don't live
Yes.
very far from where we first started.
I like that.
So it's kind of a unique thing there.
Yeah, see, your roots are deep.
We
Yeah.
really
Knew
are.
it.
Yep.
You have a sister too.
We have 3 sisters,
Three
actually.
sisters, okay.
Yes, okay. With, Cheryl and Dawn and Kim. Cheryl still lives in the community here. Dawn does too. And Kim has lived in this community for years, but now she just retired from Oakland County. And they have a daughter over in Grand Rapids. So they just moved to Grand Rapids. So they're not in the community anymore. But all 5 of us have been in this community all these years.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really important. You're connected and you're helping other people get connected in this community too. I'm always amazed at the generations that move back. When we're at the Township Hall, people will bring their property transfer affidavits and they're excited to say, I get to move back. I was raised here. This is a great community.
Yes, it is.
Gentlemen, in closing, where are you hopeful that they'll display this wonderful jacket and the photos? I know they'll be displayed with honor, but can you tell us where those will be?
I would think it would be in the Station 3, Gingellville. We still refer to it as Gingellville because it's on Gregory Road. But
Yes.
hopefully they'll display the photo, the one photo, the big one on the wall there. And hopefully they can put a display case together for the pea coat and the hat cover.
We'll take real good care of it. I know the firemen will be thrilled to have it there.
Yeah.
Harold put it on for a moment for us, and,
Yep.
and he was sporting it quite well.
Yeah, it's a little warm.
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm very glad that both of you were here today. It's been an honor to speak with you about your family heritage and your leadership roles that you have in the community.
Thank you, Penny. It was a pleasure being here, and thank you for having us and serving our community.
Yes,
sir.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate what you're doing here, putting putting this together and memorializing a lot of other things, not just the two of us, but a lot of other things going on in the township. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. I hope you've enjoyed this program today. From all of us at Oakland Leadership and Orion Neighborhood Television, we thank you for joining us.